Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final dungeon review I could do at the moment. The last two are locked. The Vault of the Wardens. My God, do I love this dungeon. Holy shit, did they outdo themselves in this one. I've mentioned several times that some of the dungeons are really aesthetically pleasing with weak bosses. Or, in the case of things like Violet Hold, really awesome bosses, but look pretty shitty, right? And they have this kind of like, this is cool, but that sucks. That's cool, this sucks. The trash is kind of boring, but the bosses are cool. The bosses are boring. The trash is really interesting, though. They got it right in some other instances, like the Maw of Souls and Neltharian's Lair for the most part, despite some boring trash. But the Vault of the Wardens, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it. Fuck yeah, did we nail it in this dungeon. Oh, you did such a good job, Blizzard. Obviously reusing, I say obviously, unless you've not seen it, the Demon Hunter starting area. The second starting area, I should say. They have two prologues. They're using that area and turning it into an instance. And turning it into an extremely good instance. As soon as you walk in, you go, this is Legion. This is Legion as fuck. You can't really say that about the other dungeon, besides maybe Halls of Valor. But this one just has Demon Hunters and all these nasties and fell energy flowing through it. And you're like, yeah, man, this is the fucking shit. Now let's find out what the gameplay is like. Holy fuck, what the hell is going on in this dungeon? I'm getting my ass kicked. I even got in there with Ish, who I didn't tell Ish it was me. But Ish is the priest on my tank. But I played with Ish in Method. And I was like, okay, so I've got a decent healer. Let's see how it's going to go. All my cooldowns used. Ish, pretty much every trash pack. That is overtuned. That is overtuned. But still, it was a lot of fun to be in that scenario and cope with some extremely difficult encounters. Now, I just mentioned overtuned. This dungeon has been tweaked a few times and currently is very overtuned. Very, very overtuned, which is a bit of a bummer. It was actually better in its previous incarnation. This incarnation is like way over the top. Like, yeah, you shouldn't be blowing every tank cooldown and ooming your healer on every trash pack. But you are doing in the Vault of the Wands at the moment, at least as of recording this video. So, what happens? You have first of all, it kicks you off with a choice. Love that. Are we going left? Are we going right? We must make a choice. And this is an important choice because waiting at the bottom of the initial ramp is a mini-boss. And not an easy mini-boss by any means. A mini-boss that can actually cause you to move around a lot. And should you pull this guy in the wrong way, and they have tempted you, and this is such clever design. Such clever design. They have tempted you that you can pull him all the way up to where he started if you want to. But you are fucked if you pull any trash by accident. Oh my God, you were destroyed. And I have seen several groups dead. Fucking dead on that first trash pack. And trying to sort out this boss because of a stray arrow or somebody trying to be like, let's pull the mini-boss while we're here. And just absolutely get smashed in the face. Love that. So I don't want to spoil too much of this, but it even has throwbacks to Deep Home in here, which is because it's like a demon prison place, right? They could just throw whatever the fuck they want in there. This is kind of why Violet Hold has such good bosses. There's no reason to create a theme. Like, I love Neltharian's Lair. I think it's a cool dungeon. And the bosses make a lot of logical sense. I said that in the video. It's like, oh, why are we fighting this and this and this here? Oh, it makes total sense why there's rock monsters and worms and stuff in here. That makes total logical sense. The same with the Halls of Valor. The same with Dark Out Thicket and fighting druids and trees. It all makes logical sense. In the Violet Hold and the Vault of the Wands, they can put whatever the fuck they want in there. It all makes total sense as long as it's demonic in some form. And they use that to the fullest. The absolute fullest, which is one of the great joys of this, is every room contains something slightly different. So, I'm not going to spoil too much here. Let's talk about the first boss. The first boss has been tweaked a few times because they seem to have a problem with getting him to spawn correctly. I'm not sure why. In the initial incarnations, he was actually stood up on a huge balcony, but he wouldn't come down. So you had to sort of like try and shimmy a jump shot with an arrow or something to get him to activate and then reset him and respawn him. So they've moved him now down to the bottom, which I filmed these in between iterations, so you might see some differences between like the healing and DPSs compared to the tank, okay? The tank is the most recent one. I had to reshoot it. I have tanked it several times, but I lost the footage because I keep having to shift footage around. So, the Vault of the Warden's first boss is such a ploy to relax you, and then he goes straight for your anus. Is how I would describe this boss. The initial phase 1 of this fight, up to 50% health, is like, la la la, this boss is boring, I think. Oh, Blizz, why can't you make a more interesting boss? 50% metamorphosis, turns into a demon and shits on your life like Father Christmas came into your house, pissed on your presents, burnt your tree, slapped your kids in the face, and then just walked out with a massive shit stain on his pants. What a twat. Yeah, this fight very quickly turns into an Ultimus nuke him down. Now, I say it's overtuned because you can't really kill him right now without either a seriously artifact modded group. Despite the scaling, they haven't worked out the scaling on the artifact weapons. So somebody who's like level 108 with a lot of artifact power has significantly more DPS than somebody who's like level 100 with an artifact. The scaling just doesn't seem to work for them. So unless you have a really good group for that, you're going to need Bloodlust. And you're going to need to have a tank doing seriously good position, which is something I really had to work on while doing this. And you'll see how close we got with... This was actually our 4th pull, I think, on my warrior to get this guy down, because he starts bombarding the room with literal mortars. He then spawns a laser line, which contracts and expands and just floats around the room, cutting you in half, like Resident Evil laser style. And on top of that, he's spawning ads, which are imps that are shooting everything, and basically it has an enrage as well, where he will just flat out kill you. He will just flat out kill the whole group if you do not kill him in a certain amount of time after he hits 50% health. It's crazy, and it's very intense, and you're just like, la 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 la, oh my god. So I'm sure they will work on this for the normal mode, because it's obviously a bit overdue for normal right now. But yeah, how difficult this is going. I would assume this is like early challenge mode style that we're doing it right now, and how much more difficult this is going to get, I have no idea. Are they going to put 2 of these laser beams in there? Maybe. It could get real crazy real fast, depending on how much fun they want to have with this first boss, but it's great. It is so good. And then immediately after that, you have a mini boss, which I won't spoil because it's awesome. And that then takes us to the elevator as we go deeper into the vault. Yeah, and it's so cool. If you've not seen the Demon Hunter starting area, going through the various levels of the vault unveils various different demons that have also escaped. And it's like, are you stopping here or not? And it takes you down to the basement where you'll get a choice of bosses to go at. The Vault of the Wardens has some interesting new mechanics, as well as returning favourites, which I'll get to shortly. Particularly, I enjoyed... Again, I don't want to spoil too much of the mechanics on the bosses, because I want you guys to see it. Unless it's incredibly obvious from the video, right? So I can't really not tell you about the laser line at the beginning, because it's so fucking blatantly obvious in the video. The second boss is a very interesting mechanic. You get a debuff. Now, this can be interrupted in normal, but I'm hoping it's not in challenge modes, because it's very cool. The debuff is the next spell you cast, you can't cast again for a really long time. And it warns you quite clearly when you get the debuff. It's like, hey, the next spell you cast after this one, you're not going to be able to use it for a while. Choose. And that's how it works. And think about that for a second. You're like, oh shit. What don't I want out of my toolkit? And that's cool. That's really cool. So obviously you're thinking something with a long cooldown. But I kind of need my DPS ones. Can I reset that one? Do I want to waste it on something useless that I don't think I'm going to use? Maybe I'm going to use that. And you have these choices regularly, because this thing happens quite a lot. Yeah, it's not a case of this is my go-to spell of this encounter. You get this debuff pretty regularly if you haven't got good interrupts in your group. And that is very, very cool. And on top of that, you have a never-ending stream of ads as this guy's opening the prison cells and releasing things inside it, which are difficult enough on their own. And it creates a very, very interesting encounter, because all the way through the group, there are people just losing parts of their toolkit as the fight goes on, right? It doesn't last forever, it's only normal mode, but I'm hoping in the challenge mode that it does. It lasts until the encounter finishes, and it's uninterruptible, and the group has to be making these choices. Now, that obviously will favor certain classes that have more spells than others, ability pruning hype, but nonetheless, great idea. Love this mechanic, and I got it, and I was like, that's cool. That's really cool. And I was like, okay, so I think like on my Holy Priest, I picked something like, okay, I'll use Divine Him now. I'm not going to use that for the remainder of the encounter. People are low health. I'll use Divine Him, and you can lock Divine Him out. And then I was thinking, like, Leap of Faith. I don't need Leap of Faith, you know, things like that. And then you start getting down to your healing spells. You're like, oh, fuck, what do I want to get rid of here? Do I want to get rid of AoE heal or what? It was very cool. Moving on, we got, again, I'm not going to spoil these too much, but you have bosses that involve coordination of the entire group. I mentioned this in the Neltharian's Lair, where I was hoping the second boss in there had required group coordination. And that is because I did Vault of the Wardens before I did Neltharian's Lair. It didn't release until afterwards. And Vault of the Wardens, the 2 bosses after that, require a group effort in order to get them done quickly, or you're going to suffer the consequences. You're not going to wipe in the normal mode. One guy can take care of the mechanics in here, particularly on the eyeball, like a callback to Durumuru. He had a callback to Durumuru in there, which involves some mirror bending. But if you do it as a group, it's so much better. And it's very rewarding when it all goes perfectly well. And I really loved that. I absolutely had a blast in here. Because it was all about mechanics. It wasn't like, this guy hits really fucking hard. Isn't that fun? Or you have to kill this guy really quickly. It was like, you have to deal with this properly. It doesn't matter if your DBS is really high. It doesn't matter if your tank's really good. You're going to die if you don't deal with this properly. And that's what I really love. It's not about those raw numbers, which are kind of dull in the end of the day. And all the bosses down here do that. So again, because I started skipping, I'm trying not to spoil too much of this one. Skip towards the last boss. You probably recognize her, which is a callback to something which I've spoiled a million times anyway. So I'm going to say it. Flame Wreath, Shade of Aran. What is Flame Wreath? Flame Wreath is a scary looking spell which appears under your feet. In this case, it's bombs. And you're like, I must run away from this bomb because everything in World of Warcraft teaches me if I have a bomb under my feet, I should run the fuck away. And this ability comes from Karazhan in the Burning Crusade. It was never reused until this day, and I'm glad to see it back because it drove guilds crazy. Because the trick with it is don't move out of it. If you move out of the bomb circle, it will detonate. It's like a proximity thing. And you have to stay on it. And in a normal experience group, it will be no problem at all, right? It will be absolutely no issue. You'll all be like, lol, preacher, this isn't a big deal. Let me tell you, as somebody who raided TBC, it was always a big pain in the ass. And it's the big finale to the dungeon. And it's my favorite dungeon. My absolute favorite dungeon. So, guys, enjoy it. And I hope I've not included too much visuals there that have ruined it for you. Bye-bye, guys.